This was a mock-up of the barbershop downtown with the actual barber chairs and equipment from downtown.
That is cool.
So yeah, we host customers here. We had the Organic Produce Summit, and they do a bus tour. We had 100 people come through here, give them lunch, do a presentation, take them out through different stations, harvesting, regenerative, the laser weeder, a whole bunch of good stuff. So, but this is the Braga barn, and it's pretty fun. So, yeah, it's very cool. But we'll go out and get started with a little presentation. We have about an hour. Okay. And drinks if anybody needs them. What's that? Yeah. I sent that to you before.
Yeah, I just think it's funny.
You weren't being facetious about drinks, right?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm very facetious, but I was not being facetious. We'll get started since we have a short amount of time. There is a bad audio cable some point in the AV system, so we're getting a pop every once in a while. It's been reported to IT, and they'll get to it when their backlog goes down. Really what we're trying to do is create a new narrative that roots can be tillage. So much of the tillage operations that we're doing in our cool weather vegetable production system is to facilitate drainage. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at a cover crop field and see that really we never see any discharge, even with slope, when you have an established cover crop. And the reason for that is that these roots, specifically were heavy ryegrass, those roots go down 6 feet, open up the soil, we get great water penetration. And so really kind of trying to change the narrative internally and in the industry that we can actually do things a little bit differently. And we have a carbon neutral, we want to be carbon neutral by 2025. In order to do that, we're going to have to decrease our diesel consumption. We spend $1,000 an acre plus per crop on tillage between every crops, anywhere between 15 and 20 passes kind of on the conventional tillage side. And with diesel prices and the CO2 footprint that comes for that, in addition to that, when we run these tillage operations, really we can't build organic matter in the soil. It's destabilizing our soil aggregate stability. We're working the ground down to 3 feet, trying to facilitate that drainage. And really what we need to do is when we can reduce tillage is when we're going to start to build soil carbon. And that's the direction that we're going. That's the direction that we're trying to achieve and substantiate. So we got funded $100,000 Healthy Soils grant. This is across the street on the Gallardi. It's in a cover crop right now. And we're transitioning conventional farmland to organic farmland with regenerative principles. And we were, with the funding just open on that, but we've been working on that for a while. And as part of that, we put together a technical advisory committee. And one of the people that is on our technical advisory committee is Kerry Crum right here, the guy with his finger in the hair. And we're trying to figure out how we can go from one crop to the next and not conduct these really intensive tillage operations. And Kerry said, you need a strip tiller. And so we got Jeff's strip tiller. And we ran that. And so sequentially what we had here is we started off with a sweet baby broccoli, and we had full coverage planted vetch, just a standard hairy vetch, and then we transplanted sweet baby broccoli into it. We got great yield, we got 7 cuts, we had no cabbage aphid. I think part of it is that when we increased the cover on the soil surface, we had more coverage, we created a better habitat for beneficial insects. Pretty windy here, and that's one of the things that the bugs don't like. They don't like all that wind, and so we created more biomass. There was more habitat for them. And so that crop turned out great. We didn't really know what to do next, and so we just mowed everything, let it grow a little bit, mowed it again, and then just transplanted in cabbage transplants. We thought it was brilliant. We got a stand, it was amazing, but then what happened is the vetch came back and outcompeted the cabbage, and we didn't get a lot of yield. But what we did learn from that is that transplants are easy. That's the way to go. In a reduced tillage, minimum tillage regenerative system, that's our slam dunk. Where we struggle still is on direct seeded crops. And so what we did with the strip tiller is we ran it a couple times. We got a great seed bed. We had to modify the planter. There's so much residual biomass in the fields that it was plugging up the runners on the planter, and so we had to take those off and really get specialized on how we did it. But we got a stand. It wasn't a great stand. We had issues with insects in the field. We had direct seed broccoli, red leaf, green leaf lettuce, iceberg lettuce, and romaine. So we kind of did all that in about 3 acres. It wasn't great. It turned out okay. We learned some lessons that direct seed is hard. We also had some earwigs kind of move up out of a drain basin that's on the north side and get into the crop that further reduced yield. And so after that, what did we do? I think that's when we decided to put this first part into like we planted like a 17 species summer cover crop. And the idea was that we were just gonna plant into that, but we didn't get on it soon enough. We buried drip. We ran a Wilcox just to kind of loosen up the soil a little bit so that we could bury drip, so we could run buried drip. And this is the strip tiller running, so this would have been in the spring. At the same time, we're kind of coming out of the spring, and I wanted to start to work on what we can do in the desert. And planting cover crops in beds, they all said I was crazy. So this is Sudan grass in the desert. It gets pretty big. It's a lot of biomass. Again, extensive root system. The roots are usually going to be as tall as a crop for the most part. And then we got a little bit crazy, and we went through the equipment yard and we said, hey, what can we use? And so this is a hipper disc. We're calling it the hippie disc internally. And it was a piece of equipment that really did a good job for in-bed termination of an extensive, biomass containing cover crop. This is what it looked like as we're doing it. It's actually doing a pretty good job. The soil turned out pretty good. This is after a couple passes, and it's just so hot down there that everything dries down so quickly. Sadly, go ahead.
Sorry, referring to a couple slides ago when you said some type of grass in the desert, where is that?
The desert?
Yeah.
So this was in Yuma. And sadly, on this ranch, we pulled the pin on, so we did these cover crop trials in Yuma, and they raised the rent on us, and so we said, we're not gonna farm on this ranch anymore. So I couldn't continue forward with this. They probably just did. But it was some measure of success for us for that. And I think the reason it was successful is we terminated it early. We terminated it at the end of May. When we let stuff go into July and August, there was too much biomass and it didn't work out. And we have slides of that coming up. But really, the bad part is with the situation that we have with the Colorado River Basin and the availability of water, our ability to grow cover crops is gone. Our ability to farm down there in the next 2 years, maybe a year, is looking pretty slim. I was reading something yesterday that we could have substantial water availability issues by this time next year.
Eric, is that just for farming with your operation, or for the entire?
That's going to be anybody that's reliant on the Colorado River Basin. So, and I do think that municipalities, I don't know what we're gonna do, because to me, a municipality can pay $5,000 or $6,000 an acre foot for water, and a grower can't. And with water rights, and we saw a little bit of it already, it's been monetized, so growers in Yuma sold some of their water to municipalities, and they received substantial payment for that this year already. So it's not pretty. But this is what it looks like when you let it get too big. It just is a mess. And then the one guy, he doesn't really get it. He decided, I'm trying to reduce CO2. He thought he would be better off mowing the Sudan grass every week. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to eliminate CO2. More passes is not what I need. But it looks pretty good. There's a lot of biomass. We learned that, it's all right. But what they ended up doing with the trials, because we have 2 production areas, we had Yuma and we have El Centro, and this is what you're seeing as El Centro, is they just did 2 passes with a disc and then put it back into beds. That was the compromise, so no deep tillage. So I'm headed down Monday. I'll see how well this field is draining. They're telling me we have to work the ground 3 feet deep, 20 passes. They do these incredible leaching events where they put 3 feet of water on top of it to try to flush out all the salts. They have a salt issue in the desert. We'll see how the crops on this ground perform. And the soil looks pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of, that looks more like a living soil than what we're used to. So then coming back up here, we got the leafy greens, we got the healthy soils grant across the street. We have our first little 3 or 4 acres that we're playing with. They gave us some additional ground, came out of a cover crop. We did standard tillage on that. Looking pretty good. Our CEO at this point really started to get involved. He has been the grower here. He, started off, on the farm in high school, went to St. Mary's, got a degree in finance, but he's always been the farmer. And he said, hey, let's take our spring mix planter, let's duct tape off the outside seed, lines, and plant ryegrass down the middle of the bed. He's not super technically savvy, so we ended up planting a winter annual in the summer, which isn't the best bet, so we had to mow it a little bit. We really need a different winter annual with an extension, or a different summer annual to use, and we're figuring that out. But sadly, this planting, we didn't harvest a thing out of it. The red and green leaf and the romaine that we had all got INSV and died. I took this picture in the morning, and most of this planting was dead in the afternoon. I was so proud, and then it just died. A little different shot. You can see the ryegrass. I think we mowed that a little bit. You need red leaf here, green leaf over here. But this is where it gets fun. So right next to this, we decided to get some clover in the furrow. So this is just a standard, I think it's a red clover, right? And they use Gandy box. A Gandy box is generally used for applying pesticides, sometimes seeds, but it's just little metered wheels that's tied in that dispenses it out. And they ran the Gandy boxes in the furrow and planted, this clover. So then we go cabbage, ryegrass, we've got the alyssum that we use for the beneficials, cabbage, and then we've got the clover in the furrows. And what we found with this system is that when we irrigated, all the water went down. And that actually helps us with food safety. So one of the big problems that we have for food safety is storing water. When you store water, you encourage frogs. Frogs are a huge food safety risk. They carry salmonella. And sadly, every once in a while, they end up in a bag of produce, like a packaged salad, and that's a bad thing. So something like this is going to help us in food safety. The narrative for food safety, this is a dangerous productive system. You're not going to see this used anywhere else. We pass our audits with flying colors. We have owl boxes up everywhere. They keep the gophers down, they keep the mice down. So as you start to work with a biological system, we can negate some of the concerns that are present with the food safety stuff. But this looks pretty good. I mean, we've gone to a balanza clover now, which has a white flower, which the beneficials really like. So we're going to be encouraging more beneficials. We're going to be capturing atmospheric nitrogen in the nodules of these legumes. We're going to be accomplishing deep tillage with the extensive roots that are present on the ryegrass. We really like this, and this is kind of the direction that we're going. We're still failing left and right, but this is pretty good. I mean, it's just, that's pretty. You don't see this. We've got Dole's windmills in the background. This production system, Jeff, have you seen anything like this?
No, I mean, yeah, it's remarkable for everyone, yeah.
Okay, yeah. This is, I hope this is the way that we're going. And when we do this, we're thinking it, you know, we're gonna play with the strip tiller some more, but we've also taken what we use a lot of times for listing, which is creating the beds, which is the Wilcox Performer, and we've modified it. We've taken out the tillage implements that take place in the center of the bed. We've taken out the shanks that go in the furrow that break up the soil deeper, and we've brought everything up. And by doing that, what we've done, go ahead.
No, go ahead, keep going.
What we've done with that is we're trench farming. So we're just farming the seed line.
So that's the second time today we heard about Wilcox Performer. It's one of these multiple tools in one machine.
I've got slides.
Oh, you do? Okay, all right. But they've modified it even beyond that, yeah.
It just looks good. And so this is that, you know, coming, you know, May or something like that. This is that multi-species crop. We let it grow up. It got quite a bigger. We didn't really know how to plant into it. We really didn't want to conduct any tillage operations. We decided to mow it. We just kind of let it get behind us. And then we borrowed Christopher Ranch's flamer. And this is not something where, for the CO2 standpoint, we don't want to incorporate propane into our production system, but we wanted to try it. And our goal was to burn out where the seed lines were going to go for the plants. We ended up scorching the entire thing. It killed everything. You'll see, it actually didn't kill everything, but it set everything back. This is what the field looks like, a romaine, just prior to us starting groundwork. This was not harvested, but you can see the amount of cover on the ground, which you're not going to see in a standard production system. And this is kind of up close what it looks like. And now we're showing up with the Wilcox here. This is that Wilcox, and I think that we've made one pass with it in this corner. And you can see that where the shoulders and where the seed line goes, the undisturbed portion, and then again, just working those edges.
Eric and Katie, just believe it or not, they are ultimately very familiar with what you're saying.
Okay, good. Good. Yeah, so this is at Wilcox, and you can see we left out the shank in the middle of the bed. We pulled the shank out of the furrow, and these are set all the way up, so we're only accomplishing about 6 inches of tillage where the seed line goes. The roller that's in the back is set to the highest position, so it basically just floats. When that roller in the back is set down, it's moving a lot more dirt. It's throwing a lot of dirt. There's dirt coming out the back. So that's what it looks like. On this one, we had the shank in the furrow because we didn't have anything planted in the furrow, so that shank's down there to facilitate drainage. And then this is what it looks like after a couple passes, and you guys are gonna go over there in a few minutes and we'll see there's beautiful fennel right there, right now. Broccoli, this is what it looks like after mowing. And just, I don't know that there's anything too much more exciting in here. Just lots of biomass. And really, what we're doing, that's pretty much it for the slideshow. To me, what I've figured out, what I believe, what I'm trying to substantiate is that the environmental concerns that we're being regulated on, that the consumer wants, that our retail partners wants, all these environmental issues, the common denominator is tillage. Increasing tillage, you can move soil. When you move soil, you get sediment into the water bodies. You can get phosphorus into the water bodies. When you facilitate drainage in the fall and get rainfall, any residual nitrogen is gone. Here at Braga Fresh, Fortunately, they utilize my laboratory, Soil Health Lab. We do same-day nitrate, ammonium, and pH results. We also have a lot of outside laboratory cooperators. We can get anything measured. But we don't apply any fertilizer until we have a test result. And we're meeting the goals that the Water Board has. Last year, we anticipate it was 2035. We think we're going to be at, is it 2040 or 2041? 2041 with this year's applications. So when you create a leaky system with all this tillage, you don't leave roots, you don't plant a cover crop. The cover crop is picking up.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No, go ahead. You're the expert.
you said there, you both there, that you are already at 2041 levels?
We got to look at the data, but that's where we think we are. So that's, it's crop removal is what they're looking at. And you can't, so below 100 pounds of load of nitrogen, which what we do is we take a look at our inputs versus removal. And I didn't think that we would ever be able to get under 200 pounds just because of the leakiness of the system and the mobility of nitrate in most of our soils. But we did it. And really so much of that is cover crops. When you apply too much fertilizer, the cover crop picks it up, you make it available for the next crop. Broccoli, cauliflower, peas, all these huge biomass containing crops, crop removal is so much less than the biomass that anytime we grow a broccoli crop, we've got 200 pounds of nitrogen that's available to the next crop. So Mark Mason, he's like, where are you guys at on your nitrogen stuff? So I sent him our application records, and they're our partners on some conventional crops. And so now he knows what we're doing, and we make crops with like 20 units of nitrogen. We're talking head lettuce crops and stuff like that, falling broccoli, which is unheard of. We also take into account the nitrate present in irrigation water. That's a big value. We already, so many of our wells are already, 4 to 10 times in drinking water standard, and so we take that into account. But testing is the key. Cover crops are the key. We cover crop a third of our land on an annual basis. The average for Monterey County production is 5%, and the lion's share of that is in vineyards. So we're killing it. We're gonna have a cover crop field day in February here. This is going into cover crop right here, multi-species cover crops. Y'all welcome to come down for that. I'll get Jeff the invite. But yeah, we're just trying to move the needle, and this is what the consumer wants. This is what Gen X wants. This is what Gen Z wants, and millennials and Gen Z. Us Gen X's are like, yeah, whatever, but we see the way the market's going and trying to get there.
Listen, any questions there? Go, Marissa.
No, Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Given where you are now, where do you see yourself, what kind of advances do you see yourself making in a couple years, and how do you see yourself getting there?
So the carbon neutral goal of 2025 is the big goal. I can't see that we're gonna get there. It's reducing fuel consumption, primarily diesel. And when we do that, we're gonna be able to keep the carbon in the soil. The tillage operations that we're doing, we are not, with everything that we're doing, we're not increasing our soil organic matter. And so we're gonna have to really get that soil active and living. That soil microbial biomass is crucial to carbon. And that's where we're going. So decreasing diesel, it's gonna make us more efficient farmers. We're gonna actually spend less money per acre, be more profitable, have a healthier soil. I hope that when we have a healthier soil, we're gonna have amino acids in the soil that are easier for the plant to utilize when it creates its biomass, creating different amino acid, constitutes of the plant. That's where we're going. So this is not what I learned at Cal Poly. Okay, they told me that vegetables were different and that agronomic principles don't apply. They lied. It's all the same.
All right, listen, some time for questions from the groups there, but then we do want to go out, we better probably hit.
Yeah, I'm ready to go now.
Okay, 2 questions. CC?
So you were talking about how you prioritize your Gen Z and millennial consumers. What sort of outreach are you doing?
So I mean, so one of the big problems that we have is that as a producer, we don't reach the consumer. Katie, go, WWF.
big one, that we can't really push ourselves, that it's okay, and it's hard to tell people this, but it's okay to see a bug in your produce that you buy at the grocery store. And the reason is we're using beneficial insects instead of pesticides. And so sometimes you're gonna get a beneficial insect in a salad bag. Of course, we don't want that, but it's gonna happen. And we get a lot of rejections for it. And we think that that's a little bit unfair, because if you're gonna look for conventional quality produce in an organic market, you're not gonna find it.
Yeah, the metric for our success is beneficial insect presence, and we're being penalized for it.
Will, last question, then we'll head out.
So you talked about increasing cover crop diversity. Have you thought about like increasing crop diversity? Like, you know, especially in the Bay Area, a lot of demand for diverse crops. What have you guys thought about that?
So we sell primarily to large buyers, and so more of the specialty stuff we don't grow: broccoli, celery, cauliflower, spinach, leaf lettuce, head lettuce. You know, these are the things that we grow. The smaller stuff we don't. And just so y'all know, you know who's pushing us on all this? It's Walmart. They're considering themselves a regenerative company. They're the ones with Project Gigaton. They're the ones that Katie just spent 3 months compiling data to submit. They're the ones that are pushing us, which is, to me, yeah, she has a job because of Walmart. That and you're awesome. But to me, they know that the consumer's changing, and they know how the consumer feels about them. And so they're trying to change the narrative that's associated with them.
I'm the big bad jerk all morning long, but we better head out.
Let's go.
Okay. All right.